Hello everyone, welcome to our presentation in Indian philosophy. I am Christian Murume Bahati. I will introduce to you briefly about the philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi. Mohandas Gandhi, often known as Mahatma Gandhi, was an Indian lawyer, political leader, and social activist who became the preeminent leader of the Indian independence movement against British rule. Born on October 2, 1869 in Porbandar, Gujarat, India. He trained as a lawyer in London and initially worked in South Africa, where he developed and employed non-violence resistance techniques, satyagraha, to fight discrimination against Indians. Gandhi became the leader of the Indian National Congress by 1921 and led mass campaigns for civil rights, self-rule, Swaraj, and other social reforms, including the upliftment of untouchables and women's rights. He famously led the 1930 Salt March to protest the British salt tax and adopted simple living and homespun cloth, khadi, as symbols of resistance. His philosophy of nonviolence and civil disobedience inspired global civil rights movements. Gandhi experienced repeated imprisonments for his activism. Through India, through him, India gained independence in 1947. It was accompanied by religious partition, which he opposed. He was assassinated on January 30, 1948 by a Hindu nationalist. He is honored as the father of the nation in India and remembered worldwide for his commitment to nonviolence resistance through truth and social justice. Gandhi's early life deeply influenced his nonviolence resistance strategies through several key factors. Growing up in a Hindu family in Gujarat, India, Gandhi was exposed to religious and moral teachings that emphasized truth, nonviolence, ahimsa, and self-discipline from an early age. Stories from India epics such as those of King Harishchandra impressed upon him the supreme value of truth and love, which became central to his philosophy of satyagraha or nonviolence resistance. His mother, a devout and ascetic woman, profoundly shaped his commitment to fasting, prayer, and self-restraint, teaching him the power of personal discipline and nonviolence in daily life. His vow to abstain from meat, alcohol, and sexual indulgence, made at a young age and reaffirmed before studying law in London, reflected his early promise to live a life of strict moral integrity, which later underpinned his resistance philosophy. From Jainism, which was prevalent in his native Gujarat, Gandhi impressed the profound principle of nonviolence, ahimsa, not only as opposition to harm, but as a broad ethical commitment that forbade violence even to harmful creatures. Jani's emphasis on strict discipline, truths, non-stealing, chastity, and non-possession directly influenced the vows Gandhi prescribed for his followers and shaped his practice of fasting as self-purification. The Jain doctrine of Anekantavada, many-sided reality, helps Gandhi respect diverse perspectives, seeing truth as multifaceted multifaceted and encouraging empathy for others' beliefs, including Muslims and Catholics. Christianity influenced Gandhi, particularly through the teaching of Jesus. especially the Sermon on the Mount, which he found resonated deeply with his idea on renunciation and moral purity. Although critical of missionary tactics and conversion methods, Gandhi respected Jesus as a great teacher. All life exemplified self-sacrifice and love for enemies. He believed the Christian message appealed to reason and moral actions, and he saw Christianity as religion of peace, akin to other major faiths. Gandhi advocated mutual respect among religions rather than religious superiority and considered engagement with different scriptures as sacred duty to find universal moral principles beyond dogma. Summary: Gandhi principles of nonviolence ahimsa remains highly relevant today as powerful ethical and practical framework for addressing contemporary social, political, and global challenges. For Gandhi, nonviolence was not merely the absence of physical violence, but active commitment to avoid harm emotionally, psychologically, and socially. This meant resolving conflicts through dialogues and understanding rather than aggression. To end our discussion, for Gandhi, nonviolence was not merely absence of physical violence, but active commitment to avoid harm emotionally, psychologically, and socially. This means resolving conflicts through dialogue and understanding rather than aggression. So this philosophy of Gandhi, as we have seen, it's a philosophy that is being used in many countries in the world right now. A philosophy that was inspired by his mother through the practice of their religion, Ahimsa, that was teaching non-violence, self-discipline, and other virtues. So Gandhi learned from all those things and he developed this philosophy that is being practiced in the world. Because for him, he found that a fight was not a solution, or violence was not solution to gain independence or to gain peace through the political leaders or through the difficulties his country was passing through. Even when he went to Africa, in South Africa, he made the same solution, but he thought of that philosophy of non-violence and the philosophy that actually helped him to gain the independence of his country. And in the same situation, many countries in the world have adopted this philosophy of non-violence. Some of the countries, when they're having conflicts, they're having war, something like that, they are always talking about dialogues for um, meeting, something like that. So this dialogues is somehow rejecting violence, is rejecting fights, but rather it's emphasizing on looking for peace instead of looking for peace in this philosophy of non-violence instead of fighting, because people might fight, countries might fight against one another, but the fight will not bring about solution. But if people sit together, they discuss and know what is actually the bone of quotation of why they are fighting. So this will help them to know more about the conflicts and they will get solution. So that's why he used this philosophy of non-violence in his country, and his country gained independence. Even in South Africa, as we have seen so far, he went in South Africa, the country of Nelson Mandela. In the same country, also they fought for their independence in the same situation because they were also inspired by Gandhi. Gandhi worked for a very long time in South Africa, so they opted for the same philosophy. So many countries in the world today, they are using these same philosophies, and instead of using fights, because in this philosophy you found that violence can bring out many things like harm, physical harm, physical injuries, physical or psychological problems or trauma, something like that. So violence is not only to be seen in a physical way, but also it can be emotionally or something like that. So violence is somehow prohibited in his philosophy, and emphasizing on non-violence. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for watching this short video in Indian philosophy. Thank you very much.